The Los Angeles Lakers are heading into another crucial offseason, and there are several important decisions the front office will need to make if the team wants to remain competitive and keep building toward another championship run. While a lot of the headlines are always going to revolve around the biggest names on the roster, the reality is that championships are often decided by the quality of the role players and the depth of the rotation. That is exactly why this upcoming offseason feels so important, because the Lakers are not just looking at one move or one signing, but rather a series of decisions that could shape the roster for the next few years. One of the biggest talking points right now revolves around a group of players who could be free agents soon, and the Lakers reportedly already have a plan in mind regarding who they want to keep and who they might be willing to let walk if the price is not right. Among the names being discussed the most are Kennard, Jaxson and Rui Hachimura. These three players represent different roles on the team, but all of them have contributed in meaningful ways, which makes the situation more complicated than it might seem at first glance. The Lakers are clearly trying to balance talent, fit, and financial flexibility all at the same time. Starting with Jaxson, his situation appears to be the most straightforward out of the three. Hayes has continued to develop and has shown improvement, especially in his energy, rim running, and defensive activity. He is not necessarily a star player, but he fills a role that every team needs, which is an athletic big man who can run the floor, protect the rim, and bring energy off the bench. Players like that are valuable, especially when they're not extremely expensive. That is why it would not be surprising at all to see the Lakers bring him back on a reasonable contract, possibly a short-term deal that keeps him motivated while also giving the team flexibility in future seasons. The Lakers also seem to like the idea of giving players small raises as a way to reward improvement while keeping contracts tradable. That strategy is actually very important in today's league because mid-sized contracts are often used in trades to match salaries. So even if a player is not a long-term core piece, having a reasonable contract can make them very valuable in trade scenarios later on. This is one of the reasons why bringing Hayes back on a modest deal could make a lot of sense for the organization moving forward. Then we move to Kennard, and his situation might actually be even more interesting. Kennard has become a very important piece for the Lakers because of his shooting, playmaking, and overall offensive versatility. When he first entered the league, many people saw him primarily as a catch-and-shoot three-point specialist, but his role has evolved over time. With more opportunities and more responsibility, he has shown that he can handle the ball, make plays, and contribute in multiple ways offensively. That kind of versatility is extremely valuable, especially on a team built around stars who need spacing and smart decision-making from role players. Because of that, many people believe that keeping Kennard should be one of the top priorities for the Lakers this offseason. Shooting is one of the most valuable skills in modern basketball, and players who can shoot consistently while also making smart plays are always in demand. The big question, of course, will be his contract and how much he's going to ask for on the market. The Lakers will need to find a number that keeps him satisfied while still allowing the team to maintain flexibility to improve other parts of the roster. One interesting strategy that teams sometimes use is structuring contracts so that the salary increases over time rather than starting high immediately. This kind of contract structure can help a team stay under salary limits in the short term while planning for future increases in the salary cap. It also creates contracts that can become very useful in trades later on because expiring contracts with higher values can be attractive for teams looking to clear cap space. If the Lakers decide to use this type of strategy, it could allow them to keep multiple players while still positioning themselves for future roster moves. Now, when we talk about Rui Hachimura, the situation becomes a bit more complicated. Rui is a very talented scorer, especially in the mid-range area, and he has improved his three-point shooting as well. Offensively, he has done many of the things the Lakers have asked him to do. He can create his own shot, he can score in isolation situations, and he can stretch the floor when needed. Players with that scoring ability are always valuable, and there is no doubt that he has helped the team in multiple situations. However, roster construction is not just about scoring. Teams also have to consider defense, rebounding, versatility, and overall fit within the system. This is where the Lakers will have to make a difficult decision. If Rui is looking for a large contract similar to what he has earned in recent seasons, The Lakers might hesitate because they still need to invest money in other areas of the roster, particularly in positions where they need more defense, athleticism, and depth. That does not mean the team does not value Rui, but it does mean that the price has to make sense for the overall roster strategy. Another factor that makes this situation complicated is the presence of younger players who may be ready for bigger roles in the rotation. Every team eventually reaches a point where they have to decide whether to keep paying veteran players or give opportunities to younger players who are still developing and could become important contributors in the future. The Lakers may soon face that exact decision, and it will play a big role in how this roster is built moving forward. As the Lakers continue evaluating the roster, the front office also has to think beyond just keeping players and start looking at how all the pieces fit together over the course of a long season. It is not only about talent on paper, but about rotations, matchups, consistency, and how each player complements the stars on the team. That is why every contract decision becomes even more important, because one wrong contract can limit flexibility for multiple seasons, while one smart contract can help build a deep and balanced roster that can compete with the best teams in the league. Depth has been one of the biggest challenges for the Lakers in recent years. When the team is healthy and the rotation is working, they can compete with almost anyone. But over the course of a long season, injuries, fatigue, and inconsistency always test the depth of the roster. That is why players like Kennard and Jaxson become so important, because they fill specific roles that allow the stars to focus on what they do best. Kennard stretches the floor and helps with ball movement, while Hayes brings energy, athleticism, and interior presence. Those types of players may not always make headlines, but they are often essential to winning games in the regular season and surviving tough playoff series. Another important aspect the Lakers must consider is financial flexibility. The salary cap continues to rise over time, and smart teams plan their contract around future flexibility rather than just the current season. If the Lakers can structure contracts in a way that keeps their core players while still allowing room for future moves, they could remain competitive for several seasons instead of just making short-term decisions. This is where contract structure becomes just as important as the players themselves. A well-structured deal can be tradable, flexible, and helpful in building future rosters, while a bad contract can become an obstacle that limits what the team can do. There is also the question of team identity. Every championship team usually has a clear identity, whether it is defense, shooting, pace, size, or versatility. The Lakers have been trying to build a roster that combines size, shooting, and playmaking around their stars. That means they need players who understand their roles and can perform consistently. Keeping players who already understand the system can sometimes be more valuable than bringing in completely new players who need time to adjust. Chemistry and familiarity often play a bigger role than people realize, especially during playoff runs where every possession matters. When looking at Rui Hachimura's situation again, it really comes down to value and role. He is a talented scorer and can create offense, but the Lakers have to decide how much they are willing to pay for that role and whether that money could be better used to improve other areas like perimeter defense, rebounding, or bench depth. These are the types of decisions that front offices spend months analyzing because one decision can change the direction of the team. It is not always about whether a player is good or not, but whether he fits the team's long-term plan at the right price. The Lakers also have to think about future trades and roster flexibility. Contracts that are not too large and not too small are often the most valuable in trades because they help match salaries in bigger deals. If the Lakers structure contracts correctly for players like Kennard and Hayes, those contracts could later become key pieces in a trade for another major player if the opportunity arises. This is something smart teams always think about. Every contract is not just about the player, but also about how that contract can be used in future roster moves. Another thing to consider is player development. Sometimes the biggest improvement a team can make comes from within rather than from free agency. If younger players improve and become reliable rotation players, that can solve many roster problems without spending a lot of money. This is why giving opportunities to developing players can be very important. The Lakers may decide that instead of paying a veteran a large contract, They would rather give minutes to a younger player who can grow into that role and provide similar production at a lower cost. All of these decisions connect to one main goal, which is building a roster that can compete for a championship while also remaining flexible for the future. It is a difficult balance because teams want to win now, but they also cannot completely sacrifice the future. The Lakers are in a position where they still want to compete at a high level, but they also need to be smart with contracts and roster construction so they can continue improving over time instead of getting stuck with a roster that cannot change. The upcoming offseason will likely define the direction of the team for the next few seasons. Decisions about role players, contracts, and roster depth may not always be the biggest headlines, but they often end up being the moves that determine whether a team becomes a true contender or just a playoff team. The Lakers' front office will have to carefully evaluate every player, every contract, and every possible move to make sure the team continues moving in the right direction. Another factor that cannot be ignored is how the rotation will look next season and how the coaching staff plans to distribute minutes. A team can have good players on paper, but if the rotation is unbalanced or certain skill sets are duplicated while others are missing, the team will struggle with consistency. The Lakers need balance between shooting, defense, size, and playmaking, and that means every roster decision must be made with lineup combinations in mind, not just individual talent. Building a roster is like building a puzzle, and every piece has to fit with the others. The Lakers also have to consider how the league is evolving. Teams are playing faster, spacing the floor more, and relying heavily on versatile players who could defend multiple positions and shoot from the outside. That makes players who can stretch the floor and make quick decisions extremely valuable. This is another reason why keeping strong shooters and smart role players can be just as important as signing big names. Modern basketball often comes down to spacing, ball movement, and defensive versatility, and teams that do those things will usually go deep into the playoffs. There is also the mental side of team building, which people do not always talk about. Players who are comfortable in a system, who understand their roles, and who have good chemistry with teammates often perform better than players who are constantly changing teams and systems. Another important detail is how the front office values potential versus proven production. Some players may have higher upside but are still inconsistent, while others may not have huge upside but are reliable every night. Teams need both types of players. The challenge is deciding how much money and how many roster spots should be dedicated to potential versus reliability. The Lakers will likely try to maintain a mix of both, keeping reliable rotation players while also giving opportunities to younger players who could develop into bigger roles over time. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, the whispers are growing louder around the league, and if they prove true, the balance of power in the NBA could be on the verge of a dramatic shift. According to circulating rumors, the Los Angeles Lakers have pulled off a stunning move, bringing Bam Adebayo into the heart of their roster in what insiders are already calling a paint-shaking acquisition. While details remain scarce and no official confirmation has surfaced, the speculation alone has sent shockwaves through fans and analysts alike. Adebayo, widely regarded as one of the most versatile big men in the game, would instantly address one of the Lakers' most persistent needs: dominance in the paint. His defensive instincts, mobility, and ability to facilitate offense from the high post could add an entirely new dimension to the team's identity. League sources, speaking under anonymity, suggest the deal may have involved multiple moving pieces, possibly including young talent and future draft considerations. The secrecy surrounding the negotiations only adds fuel to the intrigue, with some executives reportedly caught off guard by how quickly the talks progressed behind closed doors. For the Lakers, the potential arrival of Adebayo signals more than just a roster upgrade. It hints at an aggressive push toward immediate contention. Pairing his interior presence with the team's established stars could create a formidable two-way force capable of reshaping matchups across the Western Conference. Skeptics, however, urge caution. Until pen meets paper, nothing is guaranteed in a league where negotiations can collapse at the final moment. Still, The mere possibility of Adebayo wearing purple and gold has ignited imaginations, with fans already envisioning a new era defined by grit, defense, and control of the glass. If the rumors hold any truth, this could be remembered as one of the most daring moves in recent franchise history, a gamble that, if it pays off, might echo far beyond the hardwood. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.